An anime begins with Azuma, a useless but animal lover who brutally beats down anyone who dares to hurt them. But one day, his ordinary life suddenly changes when he discovers that he can communicate with animals. At first, this strange ability feels like a gift, but Azuma has no idea that it will soon become the reason for his death. Shortly after, he discovers a dying black cat being hunted by some of the deadliest assassins in the world. Without thinking twice, Azuma chooses to protect it, but that reckless decision gets him brutally killed. However, moments before he dies, the cat reveals its true identity and suddenly merges with Azuma's body, bringing him back to life with monstrous strength, unbelievable speed, and a demonic arm capable of destroying enemies with one punch. But Azuma has no idea that this incredible power is about to turn his entire life into pure destruction, because the world's deadliest ninja assassins are already preparing to hunt him down. Our story begins with a quiet teenage boy named Jiro Azuma. His cold face makes him look distant and dangerous, but he has carried an unusual secret since childhood. He can understand animals and talk to them as naturally as he speaks to people. We first see Jiro sitting beside his enormous white dog, Nachi, looking bored, as he complains about all the trouble this ability has caused him. Whenever people catch him speaking to animals, they stare at him as though he is some kind of frightening weirdo. Nachi calmly tells him that he is seeing his gift in the wrong way. It is not a curse. It simply allows him to do things no other person can. A few days later, near a quiet bridge in the city, a group of older delinquents calling themselves the Demon Kings are creating chaos. They scatter rubbish across the ground and set off firecrackers just to frighten and torment the helpless animals nearby. He then warns them that a pathetic gang like theirs could never become a real threat, no matter how many members they gathered. The remaining two lose their temper and charge at him together, but Jiro takes them down within seconds, smashing both of them into the ground just as easily as the first. Once the short fight is over, the delinquents flee from the area. A crow flies down and lands on Jiro's shoulder, thanking him from the bottom of its heart for saving it and the other animals from the firecrackers. A cat also appears and offers its thanks, while the animals gather around Jiro with clear relief, asking whether he was hurt during the fight. Jiro gives them a small smile and assures them that street fights are nothing new to him anymore. By now, they have almost become part of his daily routine. He says goodbye and heads home, but the moment he steps inside, he comes face to face with his grandfather, an old man whose stern expression immediately shows both strength and experience. Seeing Jiro return in such a rough state, the old man begins scolding him fiercely because he already knows another street fight must have happened. He reminds Jiro of their family's proud history and explains that the Azuma bloodline is not an ordinary one. Their ancestors were professional shinobi who personally served the ruler during the Edo period. While speaking, the grandfather brings out an old wooden sword and tells Jiro it is not merely a piece of wood, but the treasured blade passed down through their family, carrying the full weight of their history. With a firm warning, he orders Jiro never to waste the shinobi techniques he was taught on meaningless street brawls, because doing so would bring shame to the Azuma name. Jiro looks at the wooden sword with little respect and replies that it has no real value anymore, adding that its old-fashioned appearance would not frighten anyone. Those words anger his grandfather even further, to the point where the old man almost decides to test the weapon on Jiro himself just to prove its power. But the tension eventually settles. Instead, he chooses another punishment and orders Jiro to repair every broken door in the house as payment for his behavior. He also says he is leaving for an important neighborhood meeting and will not return until midnight, meaning Jiro will have to eat dinner alone. Jiro begins fixing the doors while complaining to himself about his grandfather's harsh treatment and how the old man still treats him like an irresponsible child. In the middle of his work, the crow from earlier suddenly returns, but this time it is shaking with fear. Jiro looks at it and calmly asks whether it came back because it wanted more food, yet the crow quickly denies that and delivers alarming news. A cat has been badly injured and is lying in a distant part of the forest, covered in blood and in desperate need of help. Jiro does not hesitate for even a second. He tells the crow to fly ahead and guide him, then races through the trees at full speed, following it deep into the dark forest until they reach a hidden spot. There he finds a horrifying sight, a black cat lying on the ground, its body soaked in blood, barely breathing as it hangs between life and death. The crow explains that it has no idea who the cat is and only noticed it by chance while flying overhead, so it came down to see what had happened. At that moment, the scene shifts into the black cat's fading mind, where it struggles to stay conscious and stubbornly tells itself that it will never surrender or hand over its power to anyone, no matter who they are. Jiro feels deep pity for the wounded animal, lifts it into his arms and rushes home, determined to treat its injuries before it dies. Once there, he gives the cat emergency care, cleans the wounds, and wraps them carefully. After some time, the cat slowly opens its eyes and begins regaining consciousness. Jiro tries to make it comfortable and places a bowl of water nearby, but then something happens that shocks even him. Jiro gently asks the cat what its name is, only for the animal to look back with proud, superior eyes and make it clear that it is not some ordinary stray carrying a cheap little name like every other animal. At the same time, the cat is deeply confused and alarmed because it cannot understand how a human is able to hear its voice so clearly. Feeling threatened, it quickly runs beneath the bed to hide. And honestly, after all that buildup, one might expect some huge disaster, maybe even the grandfather dropping dead, but no, the great emergency is simply a terrified cat under the bed. Jiro takes a few seconds to process the strange situation, then introduces himself and calmly assures the cat that he has no intention of hurting it, asking it to come out. The cat remains extremely cautious and refuses to trust a human so easily, so it chooses its final method of defense and releases a frightening aura to scare him away. Yet the attempt fails completely. Jiro stands there without moving, his expression showing no fear at all. That becomes the cat's second shock, and soon it realizes the terrible truth. Because of its injuries, it has lost a huge part of its power, and its aura is no longer strong enough to frighten anyone. With no point in resisting, and with hunger becoming impossible to ignore, it finally crawls out from beneath the bed, starts eating, and decides to open up to Jiro a little. The cat introduces itself as Rago and says it is widely known by the title Black Star. It then reveals that it is not truly a cat, but an immortal being belonging to a race called the Mononoke. Rago explains that Mononoke are supernatural creatures who live in a world parallel to the human one, yet they can take different forms, including those of humans and animals, allowing them to hide and live peacefully. Some prefer complete isolation, choosing to remain in mountains or forests far away from trouble. Jiro listens with full attention and asks how Rago ended up in such a terrible condition with wounds that nearly killed him. Rago takes a deep breath and explains that he had been forced into a deep sleep for a very long time. And when he finally woke, he found himself surrounded by a large group of Mononoke he had never seen before. They demanded that he join them and surrender his power, but he rejected them without hesitation. Rago tells Jiro he despises relying on someone else's strength or lowering his head while pretending to be powerful in front of others. Because of that firm refusal, the group launched a brutal and cowardly attack together, leaving him close to death. While this conversation continues, the story shifts elsewhere in the same forest, where a serious-looking girl named Shiba is wearing an earpiece and speaking with an unknown person. She reports that she has found a fresh blood stain in the forest and confirms that it almost certainly belongs to the target they are searching for, Rago. The person on the other end says they will prepare and send an entire search team to the area, but Shiba answers with complete confidence that such effort is unnecessary because she can finish the mission alone and capture Rago without anyone's help. Back at the house, Jiro continues protecting and feeding Rago, and he notices that the strange cat's wounds are already beginning to close at an unnatural speed. However, Rago suddenly turns toward Jiro with a sharp look. Rago warns him in a cold, frightening voice to stay away, never interfere in his affairs, and stop trying to help him, making it clear that Mononoke are not ordinary creatures, but real monsters that feed on human flesh. So Jiro's life will remain in danger as long as he stays close to him. Jiro, however, only smiles and treats the warning as if it means nothing, refusing to abandon him now. At that moment, an old memory rises inside Jiro's mind, taking him back to his childhood and the huge white dog named Natsushi, who had always been gentle with him just like his grandfather. He remembers how the older children constantly bullied and beat him because they thought he was strange, and how he would return home shattered, only for Natsushi to sit beside him, comfort him, and wash away the pain he carried. When Jiro returns to the present, he looks at Rago with a soft smile and repeats the lesson Natsushi taught him when he was young. A decent person reaches out to others even when they are different, because helping someone does not need a special reason or a perfect excuse. He then makes it clear that he has already promised himself not to leave Rago halfway through this. Time passes, and midnight finally arrives. While sitting alone, Rago begins to feel guilty, knowing that remaining inside this house will eventually bring danger and death to the kind human who saved him. Quietly, he decides to slip away without waking anyone, hoping to spare Jiro from any further harm. His wounds are still far from healed, and his strength has not fully returned, yet he leaves anyway. Jiro suddenly wakes up and catches him before he can escape, angrily demanding, "Where are you going at this hour?" Rago hides his real intention and acts as though though he is simply bored and wants to leave. Jiro becomes furious, telling him that walking away now would make all the effort spent treating him completely meaningless. Then Rago's expression changes. His fangs appear, his face hardens, and he warns Jiro seriously, "I never asked you to bring me here or save me, so don't start thinking you have any right to control me. Stay out of my way." Before their argument can continue, disaster arrives. A savage Mononoke with a human shape suddenly appears in front of them, its twisted face filled with bloodlust. The instant Rago sees it, he runs at full speed, and the creature tears after him, smashing everything in its path. Its target is clearly Rago, but escaping was never his true plan. He is drawing the monster away from the house so Jiro will not be harmed. Jiro stands frozen, barely able to understand how quickly everything has happened, but then Rago's earlier warning comes back to him. Only now does he understand that Rago was never threatening him out of hatred. He was trying to protect him and was prepared to sacrifice himself to do it. Outside the house, Rago struggles to keep moving and dodge the attacks, but his old injuries have slowed him badly. The monster soon catches up, blocks his path, and mocks him with cruel delight, saying, "So this is what remains of the legendary Rago, the star everyone once feared? Without your former power, you're nothing more than a helpless insect." In the same calm tone, the creature says it does not want to kill another Mononoke companion, but Rago snaps back in anger. "Enough with the act. I know why you came. You want to steal whatever power I still have left. If that is your goal, then come and take it. I'm ready to fight, even if it ends with my death." The monster lifts its hand to finish him, but in that decisive second, something completely unexpected happens. Jiro comes flying in from nowhere, carrying the wooden family sword his grandfather gave him, and strikes the creature's arm with enough force to wound it and push it away from Rago. Rago stares at him in disbelief, furious over this reckless and almost suicidal intervention. He tells Jiro this is not a children's fight or some ordinary street brawl, because this monster can erase him from existence without effort. Jiro does not move. With firm determination in his eyes, he answers, "I saved you from dying this morning. If I let you die now, then saving you meant nothing. And Rago, I don't accept failure." Rago is angered by the human's stubbornness, yet Jiro refuses to step aside and stands between him and the monster like a solid wall. Enraged by the wound on its hand and the boldness of the human before it, the creature suddenly changes form, becoming far larger, stronger, and more hideous. It laughs at Jiro and calls him a foolish human who has willingly come to throw his life away. The real battle begins. Jiro refuses to give in and repeatedly uses his favorite technique, cicada shell, to avoid the monster's deadly strikes as they tear apart the ground around him. Even so, the fight is unfair from the very beginning. Jiro is only a human holding a wooden sword, while his opponent is a supernatural being with crushing strength, powerful enough to break trees as easily as dry matchsticks. His courage and skill keep him standing for a while, but exhaustion soon spreads through his body. The creature begins reading his movements, closes the distance, and in one brutal moment drives a fatal blow straight through Jiro's chest. Jiro falls hard onto the ground, surrounded by a pool of his own blood, while life slowly begins leaving his body. The monster looks down at him with a cruel laugh, treating him like nothing more than a small snack before the main meal. Still, even that vicious creature gives Jiro credit for his rare courage, admitting that any other human would have lost control from fear and failed to last even a second. Turning toward Rago, it says, "I'll let you eat him. It has been a long time since you tasted human flesh, and you need this meal. Consume him, recover your strength, and then perhaps you'll be strong enough to kill me." Rago remains frozen, staring at Jiro's broken body on the ground, unable to accept what he is seeing. With his final breaths fading, Jiro struggles to gather enough strength to speak. He looks at Rago with a faint smile and whispers, "Use the moment while it's focused on me. Run with whatever strength you have left. Save yourself, Rago." Those words strike Rago harder than any attack. This legendary being is shaken from the deepest part of his heart by the boy's courage and complete lack of selfishness. He cannot understand how such a weak human could throw away his life and future to save a monster who has no worth in the eyes of humanity. A crushing sense of responsibility settles over him, leaving him with a debt that can be repaid in only one way. Rago slowly approaches the dying Jiro and makes an impossible decision. In a moment that will change the path of everything to come, he looks directly into Jiro's eyes and declares, "Then take my life instead." Rago chooses to give up his own existence, merging his body and soul with Jiro so he can save him and heal the fatal wound. The moment the fusion begins, a terrifying force spreads across the area. The ground shakes violently beneath the monster's feet, while a dense black aura erupts from Jiro's position like a volcano filled with dark energy. At the same time, Shiba reports the terrifying readings to her superiors after her equipment detects the enormous energy release and reveals their exact location. The giant monster stumbles back in shock and fear as Jiro rises again from the middle of the black aura, but the figure now standing before it is neither an ordinary human nor the weak Jiro from moments ago. Demonic energy surrounds his entire body, darkness floods the area, and one of his human arms transforms into the terrifying clawed limb of a Mononoke. His eyes shine with a strange light, carrying overwhelming power and confidence that seems impossible to challenge. Jiro himself understands none of it and cannot figure out why he is alive, but Rago speaks from within him and tells him they must defeat the creature charging toward them. Jiro remains confused, asking how he woke up and whether Rago is truly inside him. Rago tells him not to overthink it and simply throw one punch, promising to handle the rest. With no warning and only a single movement, Jiro launches forward faster than sound and drives a devastating punch into the monster using the power of their fusion. The strike sends the creature flying through the air and wipes it out completely within seconds. This legendary moment proves that when the pure, fearless heart of a human joins with the power of an ancient Mononoke, it creates an entirely new being capable of changing the balance of strength across the whole world. Before Jiro can understand what has happened, Shiba suddenly appears behind him and holds him in place with a knife. Another man arrives in front of them with his soldiers, and when Jiro assumes they must be friends of the monster, the man corrects him, saying they are not Mononoke, but agents from the General Bureau of Espionage. Without another word, Shiba strikes Jiro with the knife, making him lose consciousness, and they decide to take him to their medical facility for examinations. The man explains that this boy has now become important not only to them, but to the Mononoke as well. What follows is a strange and mysterious scene inside Jiro's mind. He stands alone in a vast empty space resembling an endless void, remembering his final fight against the strange black cat and the hideous monster that attacked them without mercy. While he struggles to understand where he is, the cat Rago appears nearby, surrounded by an unusual presence, and explains that this place is the space between life and death. He tells Jiro that a huge, horrifying hole now exists in his chest, still bleeding from the fatal strike the monster gave him. Jiro looks down in disbelief and sees black smoke and a dark aura pouring from the opening. But before he can process it, the entire vision breaks apart. He wakes from the nightmare into a completely different reality, slowly opening his eyes while a terrible headache makes him feel as if his skull is about to split. To his surprise, he is lying on a bed inside a quiet room. As he looks around through the pain, he notices a girl sitting beside him on a chair, speaking calmly on the phone. Her name is Ichika Kishi, and the moment she realizes Jiro is awake, she casually informs him that he has been unconscious for a day and a half. Jiro stares at her in shock and asks, "Where are we? And why have you brought me here?" Ichika does not react to his anger and calmly continues speaking on the phone with her superior, informing him that the unconscious boy has finally woken up and is now fully aware of everything around him. Yet while the call is still going, something happens that leaves her completely stunned. Without any warning, the black Mononoke cat, Rago, suddenly appears, stretched comfortably across Jiro's body as if he owns the room, lazily yawning and moving around like he is resting at home. Ichika freezes where she stands, and the phone nearly slips from her hand as she stares at the legendary creature they have been searching for everywhere, now sitting right in front of her without showing the slightest concern. Rago even agrees with Jiro that the girl is not pleasant at all, and that her voice is painfully annoying. Ichika immediately grabs the phone more tightly and orders her superior to come right away, telling him he needs to see the disaster unfolding in the room for himself. At that moment, the door opens and a tall man enters, dressed in an elegant suit with his hair tied neatly behind him. His face is cold, and he carries a cup of coffee in one hand as he mildly scolds Ichika for hanging up on her superior so rudely. This man is Ryosuke Shiba, the head of the department responsible for dealing with Mononoke. Shiba gets straight to the point and tells Jiro to understand three things clearly. First, he is inside a proper hospital. So friends, if you enjoyed this anime and want the next episode, let me know in the comments.